We are thrilled, we're happy, we're excited. We are relieved that the bill will not come into an effect on May Day, because we thought that this would be such an insult, such a slap on the face to farm workers who have been battling for a living wage in Tidorens and other places in the Western Cape, the domestic workers who forever are remaining helpless in the hands of their own employers, who feel absolutely insulted that they were going to be given a 15 rands an hour, and 20 rands was going to be such an insult to the rest of the workers. And so we wrote letters to each and every political party last week to urge them to please go slow, to allow a more democratic process, and to ensure that they do not cut a deal and impose a law behind the backs of the workers, or literally cutting and shaving their hair in their absence. Now that the minister announced that the bill has been, or the implementation of these bills will be delayed, and that they will be subjected to more consultation, more public hearings, we cannot be more happy. We're quite relieved, I must say.
So she says they've received so many public submissions that it's going to take some time for them to go through it. Just tell us, in terms of this process, how much of what the public says is actually taken into consideration?
Look, this is what happened. Government, employers, and in our view, captured Trade Union Federation behind the closed doors of NEDLAC, to the exclusion of the other trade union federations, such as the one that we represent, that is actually the voice of those marginalized workers, cut this deal and decided that they're going to rush the whole process in Parliament and impose it on the rest of South Africa. And we started to mobilize. As you know, we have been marching in the streets, even on the 21st of March, when others were on the Jazz Festival. We were convening Shop Steward Council all over. We are preparing and gearing ourselves for a strike and a total shutdown of the economy on the 25th of April this year. And the central demand we were making is that, please hear us. Hear the people who are going to be the victims. Hear the people who this is going to be imposed on. Give them more time to show you that no person in our country can afford to live on 11 rand an hour if you are in the extended public works program, or 15 rand if you are a domestic worker, 18 rand if you are a farm worker, or 20 rand if you are the rest of the other workers. Not the people who are negotiating this, not the ones who are imposing it, will give them to their dogs or to give them to the kids, to their own kids to carry to school. Why insulting them? They're saying it's better, it's a half a loaf better than nothing. Is this not an indictment that 24 years into democracy, we live in a country where 50% of its workers are earning below 3,400 rands? And I think that the way to respond to that is not to give them a 3,500 and then say that that's a revolution, that's a radical economic transformation. So we're pleased that there is now a possibility. It's just a possibility. But that is a possibility. Excite us that we will be listened to. We want the MPs to hear the farm workers, to hear the conditions under which they work, to hear the security, the cleaning workers, to hear the conditions under which they work, to see how they struggle to get the ends to meet, how they have to borrow from Peter to pay Paul every day as they have to find money to go to work. And we're happy that the MPs have listened to our pleas.
What do you say to the argument? I know you've been asked this question already a couple of times because you've shown discontent since this was announced. What do you say to the argument about the fact that companies simply can't afford it, that people will lose their jobs if companies are forced to pay much more money?
Please don't forget that we live in a country where the first 100 companies listed in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange are paying their CEOs a 17.9 million rands annually, and that translates to a 69,000 rands a single day, or a 12,600 rands a single hour. The very same people who earn those ridiculous amounts of money and who take them smiling, and in addition to that get share schemes and all manner of other bonuses, turn around and say to the rest of the workers, it is okay that you must work for the full hour for a 20 rand that will not even give you a McDonald's when you go to buy a lunch next door. And we think that this is just a reflection of how immoral the very system capitalism is, and this is yet another evidence of how unethical the very system is, that you want to live in a country where basically there are two countries in one world for the marginalized, oppressed, and exploited, who must be subjected to these very low wages, and the other world of the extremely rich who live in opulence, but who are keeping the other majority flat down on their stomachs so that they can justify their own unbelievable levels of opulence.
What happens, what do you do as SAFTU if after this whole process they still go ahead with 3,500 rand?
As we said, we have already announced that we are going to marches. In fact, we are marching to Parliament on the 12th of April in the Western Cape, and we're calling on all workers to unite across the board to go and present a memorandum excuse me, to the parliamentarians to say, hear us, this is just not acceptable. We are mobilizing for a general strike on the 25th of April, where we will be marching across the cities of this country to protest, firstly, against the fact that this is being done without a real consultation behind the backs of workers, in particular those that are going to be affected by this. It's not just the minimum wage that we're concerned about. We are also concerned about this frontal attack that have been launched through the amendments to the labor bills that will make it almost impossible for workers in the future to embark on a strike, because in NEDLEC they have signed deals where they are putting now stumbling blocks to make it so difficult. Even when you have finally got to secretly ballot every worker, there is so many other stumbling blocks that they have put in place to make sure that the employers have the last say, basically, on how workers should be remunerated and how they should be rewarded for the work that they put to produce the wealth of this country.